We have all heard of the myths and the legends of our history. But is there another story? Mixed creatures, that's a phenomenon, but a phenomenon which once was reality. What is a mixed creature? Everyone at least knows one mixed creature, the Sphinx before the Great Pyramid. This is a figure composed of a head of a human, they say the head of the pharaoh, and the body of a lion. A mixture. In mythology, they tell us, well, it's symbolically, because the head of the pharaoh symbolizes the intelligence, and the lion body symbolizes the force, the power of it. But I'm completely of a different opinion. I know that these mixed creatures in the past, they did exist. In every big museum, in the East and in the Far East, you find mixed creatures. And Egypt is full of mixed creatures. About 450 BC, there was the Greek historian Herodotus. He was in Egypt, and he writes in the second book of history, he writes that he was in Thebes. Thebes is today's Luxor on the Nile. And the high priest showed him 241 statues, one next to the other. And the high priest gave to every statue a short introduction. And at the end, the high priest said, these 241 statues represent 11,340 years. At that time, the gods were here. Since that time, the gods did not return again. And the priest clearly say, the gods from the firmament were here. He's talking about roughly 14,000 years, because Herodot make his statement 2,500 years from now. So to his 11,000 years, we have to add 2,500, roughly 14,000 years. Now, Herodot also writes about mixed creatures. By the way, many of the old historians, Diodorus Siculus writes about mixed creatures. Strabon writes about mixed creatures. Then we have an old Egyptian writer, and his name was Manetho. Now, Manetho's writings practically do not exist anymore, only a few pages. But 2,000 years ago, they were existing. Then we had the father of the church. His name was Eusebius. And Eusebius took out of Manetho's writing, and in a full page, he says, when the gods were here, the gods from heaven, they created mixed creature. And he comes up and tells what sort of mixed creature. Not only the Sphinx, the head of a human and the body of a lion. He says they made mixed creatures with the upper part of the body was human, and the lower part was a horse, which means the centaur. All these things, Eusebius, quoting Manetho, said the gods made all this. And of course I have asked myself, why, for my goodness, should extraterrestrials make mixed creatures? What's the idea? It also makes no sense. Oh yes, it makes sense.
6, 5, all 3 engines up and running. 2, 1, 0, and liftoff.
You know, when an intelligent society is able to make space travel, they will of course not only visit one planet. There are other planets out there. There are planets maybe are closer to the sun than the Earth. Other planets are far away from the sun. That means it is hotter or it is colder. Some planets may be bigger than the Earth. That means you need more gravity to survive there, stronger muscles. Other planets are smaller, like on our moon, you can jump an 8 or 10 meter jump. So there are different planets. Now for different planets, you need different animals, different creatures. Now the extraterrestrials, they simply saw on our planet, for example, a crocodile. This crocodile on the Nile was lying there, and it was very hot, but the hot did not harm the skin of the crocodile. And they realized, for example, a lion. The lion was attacking a gazelle with his power. Now they said, why don't we mix this heat-resisting skin of the one animal with the power, the muscles of the other animal for another planet. So they made mixed creatures. August Mariette, he knew the old story, and he found all kinds of mummies of all kinds of animals in Egypt, but not a mixed creature, not the apis. One evening, he wrote this by himself. He was a little drunken, and the next morning he was out in Sakkara. Sakkara in Egypt is the place where the step pyramid exists. And he simply fall over a stone on the ground. When he's standing up and pushed the dust away from his clothes and from the stone, he could read the word apis. He said, apis? That was one of these mixed creatures. Are there maybe apis creatures here? Now, at that time, August Mariette was not working like an archaeologist would do today, you know, very careful. And so now he simply used dynamite. He made some holes in the Egyptian ground near Sakkara. And of a sudden, a big hole appeared and he fell down. And when his people gave him some torches, he realized he was standing before a gigantic, really gigantic sarcophagus, absolutely weighing about over 100 tons, the lid alone 40 tons. And he was fascinated. He said, there must be mixed creatures, because such gigantic thing you only make for mixed creatures. For example, for the apis bull. And he was looking for the apis bull. So they opened the first sarcophagus. There was absolutely nothing in there. It was completely clean. The same thing with the second and the third. But later, they found other sarcophaguses, because there were some tunnels down there, which were filled with bitumen. Bitumen is this stinky mass, you know, which you use to make streets. So they put out this bitumen from the sarcophaguses, and they saw that in the bitumen there were different broken bones. They analyzed the bones, and they realized these bones are not from one creature. The bones are composed of different creatures. I said, how is this possible? The old Egyptians, they preserved everybody, because without preserving it, it could not be reborn in the next life. So it was absolutely a sin to destroy bones. Why should somebody destroy the bones of different creatures and then put it in a gigantic sarcophagus and then cover the sarcophagus with bitumen? Now, I have a story. The sarcophaguses, the stone, comes from Aswan. Aswan is about 1,000 kilometers away from Sakkara. That means in practice, they had to transport these heavy loads down with some canoes or ships down the Nile. And they had to go away from the Nile 4 times because there were cataracts there. Finally, they arrived at Sakkara. Some people chiseled out the ground, tunnels, and then right and left from the tunnels, they have some of these niches. Now the other people, the other group, are polishing the stones and polishing the sarcophagus, absolutely sensational. Now they put these empty sarcophaguses down in the tunnels and down in the niches. Why have they done such a gigantic work? It's an incredible labor. Just for putting mixed figures, bones, broken bones in it, it makes no sense. Soon as you look at it from modern term, there were mixed creatures. The apis was a mixed creature, like the minotaurs or the centaur, etc. The mixed creatures were made by the gods. The gods were the extraterrestrials. They had the genetical knowledge. Now, the gods order to the humans, you are not allowed to chase, to kill some of these mixed creatures, because they want to observe them. The god disappeared one day. The mixed creatures were still there. Now the humans were still afraid of the mixed creatures. They waited until the mixed creatures died on a natural way. Now they were dead. And now they made gigantic sarcophaguses, the stones from Aswan, underground tunnels. They broke the stone, the bones of the mixed creatures. They put it into these gigantic sarcophaguses, covered it with bitumen, liquid bitumen. Bitumen, when it's hot, it stinks terribly, you can use it, and put a lid of 40 tons of it. It was not the reburn, it was the contrary. These monsters should never be reborn again. That's why the gigantic sarcophagus. So today, If we simply take one bone, our genetics are so fantastic in their knowledge, they could easily prove that this is not the normal DNA of a creature. It was easy to prove that it is the product of a genetical design. It's mixed creatures. The problem is just now genetic will do the job. I know one of the genetics who said, Erich, I will do the job, but once, when he came to the result, here we have the product of a mixed creature, he could never go to public. Why not? The time is not ripe. His colleagues would block him. We say, what are you doing here? This is impossible in our time. You cannot come with mixed creatures. As soon as you have mixed creatures, you prove extraterrestrials, because only the extraterrestrials had the knowledge in genetics. And so the story ends.